welcome back to SOS Crime, where we dive deep into the lives of the most infamous criminals in history. Tonight, we unravel the chilling tale of Jeffrey Dahmer, a man whose name has become synonymous with horror. From a seemingly ordinary life to one of the most gruesome criminal cases in America, Dahmer's story is one of twisted desires, dark secrets, and a series of crimes that shocked the world. Are you ready to explore the mind of a true monster? Let's begin. Jeffrey Lionel Dahmer was born on May 21, 1960, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. His early years were marked by a blend of normalcy and quiet dysfunction that would later become a blueprint for his dark path. Dahmer was the firstborn of Lionel and Joyce Dahmer, and his parents initially provided a stable home environment. However, tension simmered beneath the surface. Lionel, a chemist, spent long hours at work, while Joyce's struggles with mental health led to erratic behavior. As a child, Jeffrey was described as curious and intelligent, but also unusually withdrawn. He showed an early fascination with animals, often collecting roadkill and dissecting the remains in the woods behind his home. While some dismissed this as scientific curiosity, others found it unsettling. Dahmer's classmates remember him as a quiet boy who occasionally acted out to gain attention, often engaging in bizarre pranks or mimicking people with disabilities. These behaviors, though strange, were not seen as signs of the horrors to come. As Dahmer grew older, the cracks in his life deepened. The situation worsened during his teenage years, as his parents' marriage deteriorated, leading to bitter arguments and eventual divorce when Dahmer was 18. This was a pivotal moment for Jeffrey, who felt abandoned by both parents. Isolated and increasingly reliant on alcohol to numb his feelings of loneliness and rejection, Dahmer began withdrawing further into himself. It was during this tumultuous time that he committed his first murder. The victim, Stephen Hicks, was a hitchhiker Dahmer picked up under the guise of offering him a ride. What began as casual drinking turned into a fatal encounter when Hicks tried to leave, sparking Dahmer's uncontrollable rage. He bludgeoned Hicks to death and disposed of the body by dismembering it and scattering the remains. This gruesome act marked the beginning of a decade-long spree of horrifying crimes, although Dahmer would later describe this murder as unplanned, a crime of opportunity rather than design. Jeffrey Dahmer's life after his first murder was a patchwork of failed attempts to find normalcy and an increasing surrender to his darkest urges. Following the killing of Stephen Hicks, Dahmer briefly attended Ohio State University but dropped out due to poor grades and heavy drinking. His father, frustrated with Jeffrey's lack of direction, urged him to enlist in the U.S. Army. Initially, it seemed like the discipline of military life might help. Dahmer trained as a medical specialist and was stationed in Germany. However, his alcohol abuse persisted, and he was discharged in 1981 for poor performance. Returning to the United States, Dahmer moved in with his grandmother in West Allis, Wisconsin. For a time, her influence seemed to stabilize him. He attended church, followed her house rules, and even found work at a chocolate factory. But beneath this veneer of normalcy, Dahmer's compulsions festered. He began frequenting gay bars and bathhouses, initially seeking companionship but gradually using these spaces as hunting grounds. His method of operation evolved. He would drug his victims to render them unconscious, then assault them. In some cases, his actions stopped short of murder, but the escalating violence was a grim harbinger of what was to come. By 1987, Dahmer's urges had escalated to a point of no return. He began killing again, targeting vulnerable individuals who were often overlooked by society, runaways, immigrants, and those estranged from their families. Dahmer lured these men to his apartment with promises of money, alcohol, or companionship. Once there, he would drug them and carry out his horrific rituals. What set Dahmer apart was not only the brutality of his acts, but the level of premeditation involved. He kept Polaroids of his victims in various stages of dismemberment, preserving their remains as trophies. His twisted desire for control even led him to experiment with creating zombies by injecting acid into the brains of some victims, attempting to render them docile and submissive. These experiments failed, leaving only more devastation in their wake. Despite the growing body count, Dahmer managed to evade suspicion, in part due to his unassuming demeanor and his victims' marginalized statuses. The horrifying extent of Jeffrey Dahmer's crimes came to light in 1991, ending a reign of terror that left at least 17 young men and boys dead. The breakthrough came on July 22, when Tracy Edwards, a 32-year-old man, managed to escape from Dahmer's apartment. Edwards flagged down police, leading them back to the scene. What officers found defied belief. Dahmer's small, cluttered apartment was a house of horrors. In the kitchen, they discovered a refrigerator containing human heads and other body parts. A large barrel filled with acid sat in the corner, used to dissolve the remains of his victims. Polaroids littered the space, depicting the gruesome acts Dahmer had committed. The air was heavy with the stench of decomposition. Despite the overwhelming evidence, Dahmer remained unnervingly calm as he confessed to his crimes. Over the course of several interviews, he detailed his killings with chilling detachment, describing how he sought to keep parts of his victims as mementos and even consume some of their remains. Dahmer explained that his actions stemmed from a deep-seated desire to possess and control his victims completely. The revelation sent shockwaves through the community and the nation. People struggled to comprehend how someone could commit such atrocities while maintaining an outward appearance of normalcy. The case also exposed systemic failures, including missed opportunities by police to apprehend Dahmer earlier. In one particularly tragic instance, officers had returned a 14-year-old victim, Connor Xanthosumphone, to Dahmer after dismissing concerns raised by neighbors. This failure highlighted broader issues of prejudice and neglect, particularly against marginalized communities. Jeffrey Dahmer's trial began in January 1992 and quickly became one of the most high-profile criminal cases in U.S. history. Charged with 17 murders, Dahmer pleaded guilty but argued insanity, claiming his actions were driven by uncontrollable impulses. The prosecution countered with evidence of his calculated methods, emphasizing the planning and effort involved in his crimes. The jury ultimately rejected Dahmer's insanity defense, finding him guilty on all counts. He was sentenced to 15 consecutive life terms, amounting to 957 years in prison. While incarcerated, Dahmer reportedly expressed remorse for his actions, even requesting a Bible and meeting with clergy. Some speculated that his newfound religiosity was a ploy, while others believed it reflected genuine repentance. Regardless, his time in prison was short-lived. On November 28, 1994, Dahmer was beaten to death by a fellow inmate, Christopher Scarver, while performing work duties. The violent end to his life sparked debates about prison safety and whether justice had truly been served. Dahmer's legacy is both horrifying and instructive. His crimes forced society to confront uncomfortable truths about mental illness, societal neglect, and systemic biases. The case highlighted the vulnerability of marginalized individuals and the failures of law enforcement to protect them. Beyond the headlines, Dahmer's story continues to captivate the public, inspiring countless books, documentaries, and even fictionalized accounts. Yet, his infamy serves as a grim reminder of the darkness that can exist within the human psyche. As we reflect on his life and crimes, we are left grappling with the complex interplay of nature, nurture, and personal choice that shaped one of history's most notorious serial killers. And that concludes the chilling story of Jeffrey Dahmer. From his troubled beginnings to his shocking end, Dahmer's life leaves us with more questions than answers. What drives someone to commit such monstrous acts? Could anything have been done to stop him? These are the questions that linger long after the story ends. Thanks for tuning in to SOS Crime. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss another deep dive into the darkest corners of history. Until next time, stay curious, and stay safe.